Genesis 3 tells the story of the first man and woman, Adam and Eve. They lived in a beautiful garden, a paradise created by God. This garden, the Garden of Eden, was a special place. God Himself planted this garden with care. He filled it with lush green trees, vibrant, colorful flowers, and clear, flowing rivers. Everything in the Garden of Eden was perfect. It was a beautiful reflection of God's goodness and love. God made Adam and Eve to live in this perfect place, a place of peace and harmony, free from worry and pain. God provided for all their needs, showing them great kindness. They had plenty of delicious food to eat from the many fruit trees in the garden. The fruit was ripe and juicy, a delight to their taste. They had a beautiful home in this garden paradise, a place of shelter and rest. And they had each other, companions in this perfect world, sharing their joy and wonder. God loved Adam and Eve very much, and He desired their happiness above all else. God gave Adam and Eve one simple rule to follow, a sign of their trust in Him. He said they could eat from any tree in the garden, enjoying the bounty of His creation. The garden was filled with trees bearing delicious fruit, a feast for the senses. The sweet smell of ripe fruit filled the air, but there was one tree they were forbidden to eat from, a tree that held a special significance. This was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said, "Do not eat from this tree. If you do, you will surely die." This command was not meant to restrict Adam and Eve's freedom, but to protect them from harm. It was a test of their obedience and their trust in God, their loving Creator. Would Adam and Eve listen to their Creator? Would they trust His wisdom and His love, choosing to obey His command? One day, a serpent, a creature of cunning and deceit, slithered into the garden. This serpent was more than just an animal. It was influenced by Satan, the enemy of God. Satan was a rebellious spirit who opposed God's goodness and sought to destroy His creation. The serpent, speaking with Satan's voice, approached Eve. He questioned God's command, planting seeds of doubt in her mind. "Did God really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden?" he asked, subtly twisting God's words and creating confusion. Eve replied, "We can eat from all the trees except one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said if we eat from that tree, we will die." The serpent contradicted God, saying, "You will not surely die. God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The serpent lied to Eve, twisting the truth to deceive her and lead her astray. He made her doubt God's words, suggesting that God was withholding something good from her, something wonderful and desirable. He made the forbidden fruit seem even more appealing, a key to hidden knowledge and power, a way to become like God Himself. Eve looked at the fruit. It appeared beautiful and tempting, its skin glistening in the sunlight. It smelled sweet and delicious, a fragrance that filled her senses. It seemed to promise wisdom and understanding, a way to unlock the secrets of the universe. She listened to the serpent's lies, allowing doubt to cloud her judgment and sway her heart. She forgot God's warning and His love, turning away from her Creator. She reached out, took the fruit, and ate it. The taste was sweet, but the consequences would be bitter. Then she offered some to Adam, who also ate the forbidden fruit, joining her in disobedience. Immediately, their innocence was shattered. Adam and Eve realized they were naked, and they felt ashamed for the first time, a feeling of vulnerability and exposure. They tried to cover themselves with leaves, a futile attempt to hide their shame and their disobedience. They hid from God among the trees of the garden, their paradise now tainted by sin and fear. They heard God walking in the garden, and fear gripped their hearts, a cold dread that chilled them to the bone. God called out, "Where are you?" Adam and Eve emerged from their hiding place, their shame evident in their downcast eyes and hesitant steps. God knew what they had done. He asked them, "Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam blamed Eve, saying, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." Eve, in turn, blamed the serpent, saying, "The serpent deceived me and I ate." Neither took full responsibility for their actions. God pronounced judgment on the serpent, saying, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." This was a promise of a future Redeemer, one who would defeat the serpent and overcome the power of evil. God then addressed Eve, saying, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." This was a consequence of her disobedience, a reminder of the pain and hardship that sin brings into the world. Finally, God turned to Adam, saying, "Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." This was a reminder of their mortality, a consequence of their sin. Even in their disobedience, God showed compassion for Adam and Eve. He made clothes for them from animal skins, providing for their physical needs and showing them mercy. He cared for them even though they had disobeyed him. He then sent them out of the Garden of Eden, protecting the tree of life so they would not eat from it and live forever in their sinful state. He placed cherubim, angelic beings, and a flaming sword guarding the entrance to the garden, a barrier between their fallen state and the perfect paradise they had forfeited. Adam named his wife Eve, meaning mother of all living, a reminder that even in their fallen state, God still had a plan for humanity. Life would continue, and through Eve, all future generations would be born. Hope remained, even in the midst of their loss. This story of Adam and Eve is a story about sin, about disobeying God, and the consequences that follow. Adam and Eve sinned by eating the forbidden fruit, and this act brought sin into the world, corrupting God's perfect creation. Sin brought with it pain, suffering, hard work, and eventually death. When we do wrong things, we face consequences, just as Adam and Eve did. Their disobedience had far-reaching consequences, affecting not only themselves but all their descendants, all of humanity. The story of Adam and Eve is a foundational story explaining the origin of sin and its impact on the world. It is a story of disobedience and its consequences, a story of temptation and how to resist it. It is a story about God's love, His justice, and His forgiveness. It reminds us that even when we make mistakes, God is still with us, offering a way back to Him. This story also introduces the idea of a Savior, someone who would defeat the serpent and overcome the power of sin. This promise points to Jesus, who came to save us from sin and death. He is the way back to God, the bridge across the chasm created by sin. Genesis 3 is a sad story, a story of disobedience and its consequences. But it is also a story of hope. It shows us how sin entered the world, but it also points to how God will ultimately redeem and restore His creation. It is a story of brokenness, but it is also a story of redemption. This story connects to the rest of the Bible, laying the foundation for all that follows. It explains why the world is the way it is, filled with pain and suffering. It shows us why we need God and His salvation. It sets the stage for God's plan to redeem humanity and restore all things to their original perfection. The next story is about Cain and Abel, the sons of Adam and Eve. It shows how sin continues to affect people, spreading like a disease through the human family. It shows how important it is to choose good over evil, to follow God's ways rather than our own selfish desires. It is another step in the long and complex story of God and humanity. Before time was measured, a story began. Sacred Narratives brings that story to life. And what you hear today is only a fragment. Unlock the full experience on Spotify, audiobooks.com, Everand, Rakuten Kobo, B, and N audiobooks. Tune in, Baker and Taylor, Bibliotheca, Overdrive, and the Sacred Narrative app. The full journey is waiting. Please like and subscribe.